This is a Dancing Stickman production. Content warning. This series contains potentially upsetting themes, including mind control, harm to children and animals, and death. The three of you have been separated. So the way we're going to do this is I am going to ask Ash and Annette to leave Riverside but stay on Discord, and I'm going to do a scene privately with Tegan. And then I will call each of you back in to do your own private scenes until you join back up together.
And I'm level 14, right?
You are level 14 now.
Nice.
Emmett, you've been trapped in Igern's house for 2 or 3 days now. She's trapped you inside of a resilient sphere. No magic can leave it. She was so apologetic when she did it. I'm so sorry, my love, but you can't be casting spells. I can't have you casting any magic here. So the air sort of shimmers around you. Have you tried casting any magic to get out?
Probably. I probably tried,
Rather than looking at your spell list, I want to know what Emmett would, pull upon inside of herself to get out of this spell. What emotions, what forces of nature, what would you pull to your will to be able to get out of this little bubble?
I think even from the very beginning, Emmett has been trying to, the basic thing that Emmett tries to do to cast magic is to just squeeze her eyes shut, and then, her face just goes really red. She's, holding her breath.
Concentrate. Yeah.
And so, I feel like she's trying to make the air pressure pop this sphere that she's in.
Pop the bubble?
Yeah.
What happens as you push, you call upon air and pressure, and not just the pressure of, atmosphere on you, but the pressure that you feel internally to get out. And it hits the kind of oily rainbow shimmer around you and just sort of osmosis straight through it and goes nowhere. It's diffused and nothing happens. Igern has seen you doing this. She is constantly maintaining this on you because she tells you that in a few days' time, we're going to join your sisters again over at the Ecclesia, and we're going to take care of this. We'll end this for you. You don't have to worry about this anymore.
What's your problem?
I don't have a problem, love. You should not have this much power, and you know that, don't you? You've had this power for what? 2 seasons at most? Not even a full year. And what has it caused you since it happened? Nothing but pain and suffering.
Not nothing but pain and suffering. I don't understand how... What changed? What happened while we were gone?
We figured out what was wrong, and we know how to fix it now, and you're going to help us.
Can you at least tell me what's wrong so I understand?
She looks at you, and what you see looking back at you is the face of a woman who just is incredibly sympathetic to the bind that she knows you are in and that she knows she has put you in, but she is looking at a child. I don't think you'd understand, my love.
How do you know that until you tell me? I'll be like, I don't understand, and then, sure, you're right.
What do you know of Magic Child? You don't know anything.
I know some things. I know how it feels. I know how to cast spells. And sure, I haven't had this for very long, but if you could just explain to me why, because I like you. I like you. But you're being weird right now. It's not been that long since we have separated. I didn't know where you were for the longest time, which was in reality not the longest time, but I thought maybe you were dead. And now you're keeping me in a bubble, and I don't want to be in a bubble.
She goes into that I'm sure you'd recognize this, Tegan. She goes into that kind of mom mode where she doesn't feel like she has to explain anything else to you, you know?
I do know.
For all the listeners out there, Tegan's mom and I are friends. What do you want to do? Let me ask you this. Since you are pretty trapped, is there anything you want to do while you're stuck in this cottage with her and she is ignoring you?
Can I do a perception check if her cottage looks any different? Does it look like any of the church people have actually raided her house, like she was worried about?
100%. Go ahead and roll me a perception check. I don't think it's going to be a particularly high DC, so we'll just see what you get and if it satisfies me.
What is that?
Did you roll a nat 20 or did you roll a 17?
Oh, well, it must have been a 17.
Oh, yeah, because you have +3.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, I'm going to tell you what you notice. The plants outside of her cottage, they're actually, now that you have a lot of time to just observe, kind of withered, just turning brown. You don't think it's the turn of the season because they don't drop their needles, so you don't know why they are turning kind of brownish gray and becoming kind of barren looking, and you realize that it's not that the landscape around is something's wrong with that, but it's just right around her cottage. And you notice that there's no plants growing in her garden, but now that you think about it, there never were. She kept going into town to get supplies. Just strikes you as odd as you gaze outside longing for freedom. But when you turn your intention inside, your eyes catch something that you missed. Over by near where she sleeps, you're free to wander throughout her small cottage. This sphere that you're trapped in, it kind of rolls. So you can kind of hamster ball. Yeah, you can hamster ball yourself around the cottage a little bit if you want to.
Just knock all her stuff over.
You gotta be careful. Do you think you're doing that on purpose?
Yeah, yes.
just
after I do my
cupboard.
Perception check, it's on purpose.
Yeah. Okay. But what you notice over by her bed, and you wouldn't have noticed this before because you weren't over there, there's a small table where she keeps a small number of trinkets and items and stuff like that. And you see a pair of bronzed baby boots.
Baby boots?
Uh-huh. Do you say this to her?
No, I look at it. Is she in the cottage right now?
Yeah, she's always with you. She's not always paying attention to you. She's been feeding you really well this whole time. The quality of the food has been excellent, and just as good as it was before. And you are warm and you sleep in a warm bed, and she's been doing everything she can to make sure that even though she has you trapped, you are as secure and comfortable as you can be. She's not trying to make you suffer.
So weird. Okay, so seeing these very obvious little baby boots.
Not that obvious. They're actually kind of tucked away. You notice this because you have free range.
Okay, so she's trying to hide them.
She's keeping them private. They're for her.
That reminds me of when, I think it was Naya who asked her what the church is keeping from her. And so, can I do an insight check about that? Like, do I just...
100% you can do an insight check about that. And I think even if you do badly, I'm going to still tell you you're right.
Okay, I'll do an insight check.
Let's see what you get. How is Roll20 playing today?
Let's see. Not good.
Great.
Wow, 19.
You think back to what Naya said when she asked Igern, what did the church take from you? And Igern's response was, that's a very personal question.
Very personal. And is she good at teaching me how to read? Was she good at teaching me? Yeah,
she's really good at teaching you how to read.
So she seems like she knows the ins and outs of how to teach a child how to read.
You have gotten, that's an insight check. This woman, now that you have been in her presence and you see these baby boots, this woman is a mom deep in her soul. That is just how she moves through the world. Is she sees the young and the vulnerable, and she tries to take care of them. But what the fuck is she doing right now?
Yeah, like, she has been avoiding the church. She didn't want us to get in trouble when we went into town, so something's changed.
Give me one more insight check.
One more insight check. I have a feeling I have some kind of idea what's going on. Another 19! Wow, thanks, Roll20!
It's been a 20, a 19, and a 19. That's been, your rolls have been, this is a great time for them to come through, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. She told you there was a cleansing. They got rid of as many witches as they could find, and she said the first ones to go were the Coven of the Heart because they were in towns. She's right across the river from a town, the biggest city in Aelia. If they hate witches that much, why are they allowing her to live across the street, essentially? Why are they tolerating her?
Yeah, like what she said was that, they need me to tend to the Shrine of Order, but they're also keeping something from her, and I have an idea of what it is. She's really old, right?
She's really old. She's over 150.
And that means that natural-born witches probably live a real long time, right?
Long time, yeah.
So, do they just have her child? Or did they kill her child?
As you ask this question to yourself and you think about how old she is, the next thing that occurs to you is, when did they take her child?
Yeah. And if the cleansing was that long ago, then, like, if she has been allowed to live here for so long, right next to where the church is, then that means it must have been a long time.
And I want to point out that the church for the followers of Tyos, the Ecclesia de Ordo in Tuvold, is the holy site. The big holy site for the whole religion. All of the church's influence in Aelia spreads from there outward into the valley, across the bay, up to Penance Point even. You know it because you were at Clawtip and you saw what they did to Uneza. The church radiates outward from that point, and there's a witch right next door, and she's been there for a long time.
Okay. What's she doing right now?
I think she's tidying. I think you've been rolling around thinking. And I don't think she really blames you for knocking stuff over. Like, she understands. She understands why you'd feel not great about this situation. So she's just picking up and cleaning up.
I guess I'm just, like, taking in all this information that seems fairly true. And... Hey, Igern?
Yes, love.
You've been here a long time, right?
Yes.
Did you grow up in the city?
In the city, no. It wasn't a city when I was a child.
Was it little?
She looks out the window at the church, which is on this... It's such an interesting location because it's on a rise. It's at the highest point, and it's where the river splits. And she looks across at the church high on its perch and says, "Used to be a mountain.
It looks like it.
The shrine used to be in a mountain cave, and it was rich farmland below."
Were you a farmer?
My parents were, yes.
Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I had 2 younger siblings, a sister and another.
I grew up in Auden.
She nods.
I've kind of, you can tell from how I look. Everyone can tell from how I look, how I live.
FYI, she looks like she wants to give you the biggest hug right now.
Aw, but she can't. I have always been trying my very hardest to protect the other kids who are like me. And I think you say that I'm not supposed to have this magic, that neither me or Ofelia or Naya are supposed to have what we have right now, but it feels just like an extension of who I am now. Because I've always wanted to heal they're not my siblings, but the other kids. They're littler than me. And I've always wanted to protect them. I've wanted to heal, like when they scrape their knee or whatever. I've always wanted them to not be seen by any guards or anything. And now that I could actually do that, it just feels natural. And I think you have to understand that, right? You have to understand that this can't have been happening for no reason to me and Naya and Ofelia. It was probably just meant to happen. If it was, why me, anyway? If it wasn't supposed to happen.
She is on the verge of tears as she listens to you. And she's been nodding her head along as she listens. She says, "Emmett, my love, I can see why, if you were to come into power, you would be a heart witch. You remind me of so many of the sisters I've lost. But the thing is we're all made of magic. And why you should have received it, it was an accident. It wasn't, there's no divine purpose to it. It was an effect stemming from a cause. And we need to take care of that effect. And if we don't, terrible things could happen in the world. So I'm very grateful to see another young heart witch. It's been a long time. But it's wrong that you should have this power. After that, I think she stops talking to you because you can see how deeply feeling this is for her.
I have one thing to say.
One thing you want to... Okay, all right.
If I remind you of all the sisters you've lost so much, then why do you want to lose another one?
Oh, she openly starts weeping when you ask her that. Openly weeping, and that's why then she stops talking to you.
Whew.
That's when she stops talking to you.
Heavy.
She waits till that evening, and she grabs you in her witch's grasp. So you're in this sphere, and she's reached out with her power, and she's holding you, and she takes you outside of the cottage for the first time in days. She leads you down that little stone path to the little place where you guys ferry yourselves to and from Tuvold, and she leads you into the boat. She, while holding you with one hand, she touches the side of the boat with another, and it moves on its own across the river. But rather than going downstream to the port, you go upstream towards the church. And you didn't see this the other day when you were struggling in the water, because why would you? You were a little distracted. But you notice she's steering the boat directly towards a small cave in the cliffside or mountainside, as you now start to think of it, that leads in to the under, like directly underneath the church. As the boat docks itself in there, you are greeted by several armed guards of the church. The soldiers, not the priests, the ones who fight, not throw magic, but they escort you through. It is subterranean, but it's bricked and paved and well lit hallways and stairways leading up. Nice thing is, you don't have to walk because she's just carrying you along. These halls and stairs, you can tell they're like doubling back on each other as you spiral your way upwards, but you do, as you go up probably 100, 120 feet, you wind up passing through large stone halls where there are long rows of tables. And at these tables, you see, as you observe real quickly through passing through, people working on something the way you saw kids working on something at the orphanage in Audun. But the kids in Audun, they had adzolite and they were shaping it. What you see here is people with shaped adzolite, a little stone knob with a thin needle-like shunt at the end of it. And as you actually see the real things, you see how long that shunt is. And you realize it goes straight into the spinal column if they are inserting this into people. But what they're doing is they're taking the adzolite and then they take a little jar, take the lid off, and pull out a little pickled octopus pod. They insert the shunt into it, and you see the pod just shrivels. And then the worker takes the shunt, puts it down in a pile that's being collected by somebody coming through, picks up a new shunt, a new jar, does the same thing over and over again.
And is my skin still discolored?
It's spread pretty far, like it spread over your heart almost when the guardian touched you, but you're strong. You're much stronger than you used to be. And it's receded. So now what you have is just a faint gray-blue impression of little suckers.
I think I can intuit what they're doing with these little tentacles. Alright, I guess there's nothing I can do about that.
There's nothing you can do about it. Yes, you observe this passing through. You're taken through this hall very quickly as you're taken to a new set of stairs. And this now, rather than flights that go up and stop on levels, this is a spiral, a straight up spiral. As you spiral upwards, you don't know what you're heading towards, but it does get tighter and tighter as it goes up. And you think you probably go up maybe another, you can't tell, you're underground. It's pretty far, but not that far. It doesn't take you all night to get there by any means. But eventually, one of the guards escorting you touches something at the ceiling as you reach a stopping point where there's no more stairs left to go, and slides something aside, and you and the 3 guards and Igern emerge up and out. And at first you are not totally sure what you're seeing because you're kind of like in a small cramped space, But as you come out, you realize that you're being taken out around a statue. And in front of you is an altar. On that altar is pretty obviously a body covered in a sheet. Behind the altar, this is what's interesting. You're coming from a wall, essentially, and what you see is this massive temple opening around you to either side. But as you look towards the other end of the temple, that's where you see like an actual set of doors. So you realize you're coming up through a trap door that's at the back of the church, actually. So standing near in the center of this room, which is ringed by columns and torchlight, in the center of this room is a dais with a circle on it that's glowing red. It is not broken. The light is not sickly. It looks completely undamaged. And standing near this glowing dais is an old man. He's wearing robes. He's obviously high up in the church. He's got the Eye of Tyos on a chain around his neck. He's bald, totally bald. He might have had a tonsure at one point. He's got a little goatee, very serious face. He turns to you, regards you in the sphere. Let me know if you want to do anything.
Are you Chad?
He instantly dismisses you when you ask that question. And he looks to Igern. And he nods at her and he says, "Mother." Annette.
Hello. What happened? What?
I have no idea.
All right, bye, Tegan.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Ofelia, you have been bound and gagged. Your hands have been bound together so that you cannot do the somatic part of spells, and you have been gagged so you can't cast the verbal part of spells. You are being stowed in the storage area of a small schooner that is traveling, you would guess at this point, upriver, because you left Hadari and you could tell that when you were on the open bay, after you'd passed through the Veil of Storms, as you'd traveled, you would guess back to the mainland. And at a certain point, you know this because you've studied the geography of Aelia, that the Pharusian River is one of the many river deltas that opens up into the bay, and at a certain point they had to take out oars and start rowing upstream. So you would guess that you are heading inward based on the fact that your captors are agents of the church, an archbishop rowing cattle who you are familiar with, and the woman you learned is an abbess. Her name is Talis Avamar.
Abyss.
She's the one who caught you. She's been a little unusual. I'll get back to it because I want to describe where you are. So you're in the storage area, you're bound and gagged. It's small, it's cramped. There's boxes and stuff in it, and they are secured to the wall, so you're pretty sure they're not gonna fall on you. And you're sitting on the floor against the wall, the door across from you. Outside the door, leaking in from under it, is that terrible odor that you associate with the man who took you in the woods and who Igern removed so that you would be free to continue on to Uneza.
Mm.
He has been outside the door the whole time. You've been able to smell him the whole time, and it's a little upsetting how bad he smells. Like death. Talis Avamar has come into this little holding area, and I'm going to share something with you on Roll20 so that you can read it. She has been reading at you from the All-Seeing Eye, which is, as you are quite familiar with, the book of the Church of Tyos. She's come in multiple times to read at you. So she's read the Sovereignty Prayer. Almighty Tyos, yours is the way, the will, and the light. There is no existence but what you define, and no power but what you permit. All-seeing Tyos, we must submit ourselves humbly to your rule, your knowledge of what came before and comes after, for you alone know the path of peace. Hallowed Tyos, protect us from the creeping darkness, from lawlessness, disarray, and turmoil that weave unbidden through the hearts of men. You are so familiar with this prayer. You've said it in church growing up, like your whole life. It's like the standard.
I think as she is reading this throughout the entire thing, I think Ofelia, while gagged and bound, it's just a very cold stare of just impassivity.
Are you looking at her while she reads this to you?
Yeah, directly.
Directly in her eyes?
Yeah.
Roll an intimidation check for me, please.
I'm just not
I'm just
impressed.
curious. I'm just curious how threatened she is. I want to know.
Not that threatened, unfortunately, but let me see. I just rolled a 5, so 5 plus
She rolled a 17.
2 is 7, so it's not that high, unfortunately, because I'm bound.
So she's not intimidated. You know what? As you look at this woman, you recognize something in her. She's not intimidated by you. She stares back at you with the same kind of cool, calculating impassivity that you are directing at her. And you almost start to think she's trying to communicate something to you. She's just not doing it openly.
Can I make an insight check to see what that look is?
100%. Let me know what you want to know about the look.
I guess the first thing Ophelia's trying to gauge is she on my side? Is she on their side? Like sort of, I think.
Sure.
So that's going to be a 23.
Lovely. You know what you remember? While you were listening in on Cattle, he was talking at her so hard. She was just doing that thing that you have observed your mother do. You've even observed Senna, the gardener, do it. You've observed plenty of women doing this, where they are just humoring the men around them while they are on to other, more important things. And as you look at her and straight in the eyes, and she looks right back at you, she finishes up the prayer. She closes the book. She puts it on the ground near the door, and she says to you, very pointedly, I hope that the service of our Lord can guide you back to your path. And she leaves the book on the ground, and she exits. And you see a glimpse of that man sitting outside the door. He's carving something into wood, and you see a long braid of hair hanging from his belt as she shuts the door behind herself.
A long braid of hair, you said?
Yes. She left this Bible in the room for you. But the thing is that as she's leaving, something catches your eye.
Okay.
There's this like little ball of light. It's hanging like actually up above the door where she was standing. And as you look at it, can you please give me an Arcana check?
It's not that great. Let me see. Arcana.
Doesn't need to be.
13.
You have Spell Warping Curse prepared. So it doesn't need to be a great Arcana check. You realize you're being scryed on.
Yeah, shit.
Somebody's watching this room. But what do you reach out with magically when you want to probe that little piece of magic that's in the room with you?
I guess if it feels familiar because, I've been in the presence of Iger and Uneza and Leah for a very brief amount of time. So just like trying to understand, have I seen this sort of magic or felt this sort of magic spell being done before?
Yes, you instantly recognize, you touch this little sphere of light that you have to imagine that if there were somebody else in the room, you don't think they'd be able to see it. You think only you can. You touch this little sphere of light and instantly you're like, oh, this is Liev. And you remember that he has that little crystal of farsight and he can spy very easily on everyone. So he's watching, he's trying to find you. I have a question for you though, Ofelia. You have changed pretty dramatically in the last few seasons, in the last few days. You have grown in power and you have called even more onto yourself. You've even commanded the power of life and death. Now, you worshipped the god of death before, so you are familiar with his workings. You're familiar with the workings of growth and healing and with order and sovereignty. You know all these forces within you, but you have changed pretty fundamentally. You took a light dispassionately, and it felt, I would imagine, correct when you did this, because you were in a situation, you needed to not be seen by anyone else, and you had very few options at the time. And this man whose life you took had been kidnapping children. and hiding behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Your magic had started out with growth, but now you feel the way that death can reshape it. You remember when you were underwater in the cave, your algae that you grew around to capture that mer priest, it came out in jutting, irregular spikes. And you think to yourself of this combination of both growth and death and the way they shaped themselves around this man. And then you think about how Liev ran out in the middle of the night, left the three of you to deal with everything going on in Hadari on your own. And here he is watching you now. I think Ofelia is a pretty analytical person. Do you think she's good at analysis with emotions?
I think she understands the basic palette within herself, but she's never been introspective in the manner of like, oh, like I know every single feeling that I'm feeling and I'm processing those feelings. Like, she's definitely more analytical and introspective about external factors, I would say, rather than internal.
Then what I would ask is, when she's considering Liev, do you think she's good at connecting circumstance to action and understanding what emotion drives it?
I think she looks at it in a very objective factor, and just by knowing Liev to a degree, and yeah, I guess the situation, I think I would understand, yeah.
What's the main emotion you feel when you think about Liev having left you with a note in the middle of the night and gone off to something you knew was stupid?
You know, even though you understand someone's actions and you can justify, well, they kind of had to do what they had to do, paired with, I think, Ophelia's inability to really process her internal emotions, I think like a stone that has yet to really be ground, I think there's an anger that hasn't been dealt with. And I think it comes when she thinks about Liev.
You recognize that as things have changed for you significantly, so have they changed for Liev. You don't have a ton of explanation into what his life was before, but you know he knows Uneza, you know he knows Igern. And these people that he may know better than you, may have deeper intimacy and connection with, have also been going through some stuff in the last 2 seasons since everything changed. So you are aware, you're aware he has had to cope too, but you're more vulnerable. You aren't a witch. You weren't a witch before. Now you're a witch. Now you're a really powerful witch, and you have so many new things happening to you, and a lot of them are terrible. And the man left you, and I want to know, as you see this little ball of light that he is sending, because he is watching over you now, based on how Ofelia has changed over even just the last few days, you realize that if you wanted to, you could just ping that little ball and send a curse right along it to him. And I want to know how much Ofelia, whether she views him as someone to antagonize or not.
I think she does want Liev to know that she partially blames him for the situation. I think because he was in a position to aid and be sort of a guide, sort of like how Igern was to Emmett and how Uneza was to Naya. But Ofelia didn't get that from Liev. Yes, he helped, but like he also ran in like the time of need. And I think she would cast it not with like the ill intentions of I want you to die, but I think it's more so with the intention of I want you to know that I'm hurting and you caused it.
So reaching through his magic back to him, you throw a curse his way. And I will just say that Spell Warping Curse is one of the witch curses created by Worlds Beyond Number. So what happens when you are aware, because you have it prepared, that a creature is spying on you, and you send that curse back as if you can see them, he will now take 1d8 plus his spellcasting ability modifier of psychic damage every time he casts a spell that deals damage or forces a creature to make a saving throw. So he will damage himself every time he uses magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That little spike of black energy, you can't see it traveling, but you can almost feel the way it streams up this strand connecting Liev's vision to you, and you feel it hit him. And you receive a message. He says,
Ofelia, with Naya, headed to Emmett and call us. Sorry I left. Something's wrong. Great spirits. Order, the Sovereign. Hierarch Relax. Amalgamation. The Void is hungry.
Ophelia's just going to kind of say the way soldiers will like report back because it's kind of like their duty. She's just going to say, understood. What do you want me to do?
he sends you one more message. He says,
Hold tight. I think you'll meet us there. What's in the book?
and you look to the book that the abbess left at the foot of the door.
I don't think Ofelia is going to respond to the message. I think she is going to push down this feeling of frustration because she is obviously bound and gagged, but rather than giving her aid is just duty. And Ofelia understands duty above all because that's something she's kind of had to do with her family as well. And out of just experience, she's gonna push down whatever feelings were creeping up, and she's just going to look at the book and try to move towards it quietly.
Do me a favor and give me, I'm going to have you do stealth, and I'm going to have the gentleman outside the door, the hunter, do a perception check. And we'll just see if he can hear you.
Oof.
Ooh, he rolled well.
I got a 21.
Ooh. Oh no, I'm so sorry. You got a 25.
Shit.
Yeah. So, you do reach the book, but he can hear you. You hear his chair scrape a little bit that he's sitting on, and he stands up and he comes to the door. So you can grab the book.
Can I quickly hide the book? Can I like sit on it or something?
Give me a sleight of hand check.
Sleight of hand. 19.
Great. You actually managed to scoop it up, and I feel like you're probably used to holding books under your arm and trying to keep it looking natural because you seem like a fairly studious person, but you tuck it in under your jacket and just readjust yourself, sit up, and he comes in, he's like, what do you think you're doing?
I think I'm just gonna look towards... Is there like a window-ish where...
No, this is a closed off room. They're keeping you in a closet, essentially.
I think I'm just gonna shrug and just kind of motion towards... I don't know, I just like look around myself pointedly as if to like gesture like, well, obviously I'm uncomfortable, like kind of giving off that message.
He kneels down and gets pretty close to you. This man smells so foul. And you can see also, as he gets close to you, he's got very tanned, kind of craggy, dark skin, and he is filthy.
Ugh.
He is not a man who showers frequently. Bathes, let's say. I don't know if he has showers.
Yeah.
Maybe the rich people have showers.
Right.
But this man don't know nothing about that because this man doesn't seem like he goes near body water for anything except to maybe drink. And you wouldn't know based on his breath also.
Right.
So what is Ophelia's reaction to this kind of foulness?
I think she's gonna recoil a bit, but try to ignore it because she doesn't want to give him that sense of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to try to hide her disgust.
He pulls out a small blade that he keeps at his side, and he just sort of plays with it in one hand, and he reaches forward and he lightly grabs your braid and runs his hand along it. And he says, "Witch."
I think my sorry, I'm gonna be glaring at him, and I think the message I'm going to say is, "Bitch."
He smirks, and he gets up and he leaves and he closes the door behind him. And you're left in the room. And you have successfully hidden that book from him too, so you have that under your arm.
Mm-hmm.
You almost immediately find what it is that the abbess was trying to refer you to, because there's a small sheaf of paper inside of the book. And what you see on the front is a drawing of a giant octopus. She's titled it Observations and Reflections of Abbess Talus Avamar on the Refinement and Scaling of the Process of Drone Production. So the first set of notes is about the Guardian that you met in Hadari. What you realize is they actually discovered a nest of the octopus's eggs below their main camp. She notes that they had used the Athame on the Guardian and they had trapped it inside the circle, but they didn't know if they would be able to restrain or control it. And that's where you see these notes about its nest of, she says, 100,000 to 500,000 eggs. And it does not leave the nest during brooding. She will stop eating in order to protect the nest from predators. So a note under the section that she's titled Safeguarding the Asset says, perhaps if not the beast's parental instincts, the Athame can assist in making the asset more amenable to our will. So you start paging through the daily notes that she has taken. She refers to the man outside the door as the hunter. You realize that that is who she's talking about because she was talking about him having arrived at the camp at Hadari with the Athame, with Yuneza's Athame. He had presented it to Cattle and herself, and she sent word to Tuvold and received word back that Collis was due to come, and he did. He and Cattle spent time experimenting with the Athame on some of the other priests. She says, Collis asked Cattle to use the Athame on one of the attendant soldiers. The man was radically and dramatically transformed. Now has gills, webbed extremities. He appears to be much stronger than he was previously. He ripped an arm off of one of the guards subduing him. He just tore the joint out of the socket like it was held together with prayer. After that, Collis and Cattle continued using the Athame to create what she calls an aquatic guard, and they hunted the Guardian down, used the Athame on the Guardian, trapped it in the altar cave. So they had stationed this aquatic guard to guard both the Guardian and its nest. So this is where the bulk of her notes are, and you suspect that this is why she was there, because she had been working for someone referred to as a cardinal that you suspect may have been like a wizard, but there's a section that details a prototype for a kind of device that can be used to subdue and control humans through the application of psychic power using an adzolite shunt inserted into the spinal column. She says, the combination of a proper material resource that has demonstrable psychic linkage, combined with the magical properties of adzolite, could allow the psychic source to control, potentially, many subjects through the ether. The main issue would be how to assure that the psychic source's directives were aligned with the will of the church. And you think about that fight that you had underwater, how the Guardian offered itself to Emmett, and Emmett cut off its pad, and when she placed it on the head of that mer priest you were fighting, how it went blank. And you think about what they're saying about this nest of eggs that they were guarding while they had the Guardian trapped, and what they must have been doing to assure its compliance. The last section of the notes is Talus's private thoughts on what she has learned of the material, the ether, and the void from Cade Collis. So she says, if the material is the space created when magic comes together to be made real, and the ether is where magic resides as potential and thought, then the void is the null place where the two planes tenuously balance themselves against its draw. So she discusses here the potential that Collis has seen in using corruption as a mechanism for movement between the material, the ether, and the void. She herself is primarily interested in the magical properties of corruption, but she does note that Collis seemed particularly preoccupied with discussing the potentiality of moving something from the material to the ether and then back again.
First and foremost, the guardian of the calyx, which was the octopus, the Othame, was actually used on the guardian so that it is now more powerful. So meaning what we had witnessed, Emmett, Naya, and I, are not that's the original guardian, but somehow it has been twisted as well.
As you think about it, you think of what you saw that Uneza had. She had a stab wound. You saw what happened to that elk when you saw what happened to the tree when Uneza turned it into a treant. You think that what the shunt does, what the drones do, and what the Othame do are not the same, but that the corruption created by the Othame changing things into something that they're not might be related to what is being used with the Adzalite and the drones.
And I guess this note too about the ether and then the void and the material, and I think Ofelia is trying to understand the phrase of using corruption as a mechanism for movement between the material, the ether, and the void, and why possibly they would want to move something from the material to the ether. And then I guess I'm trying to also pair it with Uneza's notes as well. And we said the ether, is that basically the same thing as like the loom where like the threads of magic are?
Give me either a history check with disadvantage or a flat arcana check.
I think I'll do arcana then. Let me see.
I think history-wise you wouldn't. You were raised in the church. This isn't something no.
Arcana was a 19.
You can't be totally sure because this is not a tradition that you were brought up in, so you don't understand it that clearly. But the way that it is being described really sounds like it. It sounds like that what is being referred to by witches as spirits or strands, that strand, that's thought, it's force, it's the things before they become material, it's potentiality. And when they weave together, that's where potentiality becomes action. And you think maybe spirits are the ether, but the loom might even be bigger than that. Spirits, you know, from Sadria Ko's notes, reside in the ether. So this braiding of spirits together that forms a great loom, if they reside in there, but they're doing this with each other, the loom might be bigger. It might be everything.
And when we say like bigger, are we just talking about like perhaps is like this some sort of atmosphere then, like it's kind of its own encompassing space that holds like the spirits? Is that what it is?
I love this question so much. Ofelia is trying to put magical concepts into material terms.
Yes.
And you're doing the best you can, man. But like, I think that you are reaching that point in human consciousness where something becomes so big it becomes impossible to conceptualize. You think you're on the right track, but you also realize that you're maybe reaching the limits of what it is you're capable of understanding.
That's fair.
Like the way people can't imagine infinity, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. But I guess as I kind of like dismiss the thought because it is too great now for me to truly understand, is there a way that I can understand like what would be the possibility of something moving from the material, which I understand is where we are, to the ether and back again? Is that something like Ofelia can understand? Like, is that like a way of harnessing more power then, essentially?
Give me an insight check, please. This is insight.
18.
18, great. What you think about? What are the great spirits you've heard of?
Actually, that's a good question. What would be the great spirits I've heard of?
Well, you know that shrines are places that great spirits connect to the land.
Okay. So then, yeah, chaos, change, and then order are probably the three that I've learned about the most.
And you think to what Sadria Ko was saying about gods, about how they're braidings that come off of other strands. What is Tyos the god of?
Order.
And?
Sovereignty?
So you think, okay, sovereignty, maybe that's another spirit?
Huh.
And then you think about the message Liev sent you.
Where he says great spirit, order, sovereign, amalgamation.
He said, order, sovereign, hierarch Vrelax, who you know to be the man in charge of the church.
Is he trying to... Are they trying to put a person, the hierarch amalgamation, with this sovereign god to become the new great spirit of order?
As this thought occurs to you, what is the feeling in Ophelia's body as this thought occurs to her that maybe this is what the church is doing?
I think Ofelia is just like... I think there's a part of her that like understands that people want power, but this also feels so fanatical. Like, why would you ever want a mortal to reach some sort of goddom? You know, because I think in a sense, even though Ofelia is not necessarily religious like the church people, I think there's a part of her that's kind of, especially now that she's tapped into nature, like there's still something sovereign and like set apart with that sort of ether nature. And then it feels wrong. I guess it feels wrong that something so human would want to take the position of something so sacred. I think that's what Ofelia feels. And yeah, I think it's just that sense of like wrongness that doesn't feel right.
As this is occurring to you and you're like, this feels deeply wrong, you think back to yourself and the changes that you've made and the way you've become. I think you recognize this in yourself. You become a bit crueler. Emmett's noticed, Naya's noticed. You've become more cruel. And you think about how the church, what like Uneza and Igern have both told you of the church is that they hunt witches because witches become corrupt. And I want to know how Ofelia feels about, I think there's a certain recognition of that within yourself, that you've reached for power beyond what you were already even granted and used it. And now now what you are is kind of used to doing that. You know what that feels like now. You know what it feels like to take a life. But then you think about this blasphemy of, are they trying to make a mortal a god? And when you think about that and corruption, I'm interested in knowing how those two things relate to each other. You're corrupt, according to the church.
I think the word corruption, I think Ofelia thinks of corruption as departing from one's original nature. And hence why the idea of a mortal man becoming a god feels also corrupt, because this man is trying to change his nature into something he's not. That thought then propels Ofelia to question her nature and ask herself, what is my true nature? Which I think to Ofelia means purpose as well. I think it's tied into that. And she does recognize, as she tries to analyze her actions from the past couple of seasons, I think she recognizes that there's within her nature the ability to protect and heal and help, because those were the skills that were granted to her.
Even before you had powers.
Exactly. But I don't think she regrets taking the life of the man, because if it was a scale, there were too much weight that weighed against the man to live. And in her eyes, she was just doing her duty, which was to protect and to help. She does regret, I think, perhaps her attitude, I think, of her actions towards maybe Naya and Emmett. And I think she recognizes that perhaps part of that was a shield to protect herself, because she also was unsure of what was happening to her and just the weight of her actions. But I think she is gaining more clarity of that I am not corrupt, because I am still doing what I had always done, which is to help and protect people.
Weighty stuff for Ofelia to sit with as she suffocates in this little hot box, just waiting to arrive. Wherever it is, they arrive. And I think it's not too long. It's a few days later. The door opens. That horrible spelling man who Taylor's referred to in her notes as the Hunter stands you up, and you are marched out of the hold that you are in. You join a full contingent of guards, including the abbess, who looks at you pointedly and then looks away, and Rowan Cattle, who is I think this man is so proud that he caught a witch. He caught a witch.
Yeah.
But you're at the port in Tuval. And they march you up that familiar ramp through the gatehouse to the central square that joins all the guilds in that central square. As you're walking through the streets, you are bound still, you are gagged still, you are being paraded. You recognize that. And a crowd actually draws to watch you. Can you give me a perception check, please? Or investigation, whichever's...
Let me see. Perception is going to be a 13.
This crowd is silent. This is the busiest city. This is the capital city.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what it was like the last time you were here.
Mm-hmm.
Fair to say it was last year. It was a season ago. Things appear to have changed. Everything's gotten very somber now.
Mm.
And this crowd watches almost silently as you are marched through the streets up towards the Ecclesia de Ordo.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, a man runs yelling into this parade route in front of you, and your whole contingent stops as this man runs in, and two guards come and pick him up, as well as what looks like to be somebody just from the crowd come pick him up and drag him screaming back into an alley until you cannot hear him anymore. But one thing that you do notice when those guards pick him up is that the other person who helped them has a little stone at the back of his neck. And as you look around, you see more of them. Not everybody, but more of them than... You only caught a glimpse of one while you were here the last time. It seems like maybe every third person has just a little something protruding from the back of their neck.
Does Ofelia start to make the connection that perhaps now knowing the connection to corruption and potentially having that be a way to go from the material to the ether, Am I starting to make the connection that there seems to be a sacrificial component to this ritual?
What you think of is what Sadria Ko wrote about how gods are powerful when they have more followers.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw, I kind of want to put it together for you, but I kind of want to make you roll for it.
Okay.
Do you feel like this would be more of Ophelia's knowledge of magic or Ophelia's knowledge or ability to analyze situations?
I think magic is still unknown to her. I think it would be more so trusting her ability to analyze the situation, make those connections.
Okay, give me an insight check, and you can give it to me with advantage.
Ooh.
You are staying true to your nature.
Ooh, thank God, actually. Yes. Okay, that's good. That's 27.
These are the things that flash through your mind really quickly as you're putting this together. You think about how the Guardian healed itself from Emmett after it asked for permission to, and grew back one of its little tentacle pods, but then immediately asked Emmett to cut it off again and place it on that mer priest. And then he became passive and still. So you actually are thinking they were pickling those little pods. There's something about the Adzalite and the Guardian and the changes that have been wrought to it and the power that it has that are creating something that seems to create pliability, let's call it. You don't know necessarily that this is part of a ritual, but you do know that gods are more powerful the more followers they have, and the church has found a way to create more followers. What they had, which is control over all of Aelia, the guard who live in the military garrisons far from Tuvold. They are members of the church that the church sends out to help patrol Aelia. It is the religion of the continent. And you worshipped Adir in secret. And the version of Nox that you are familiar with is the version that the church talks about. But in talking to Naya about Nox, you have come to realize that there's different aspects of death. And you realize that the church promotes some but not others. And you think all of this other way of knowing the world has been suppressed so successfully in this continent. And yet they are still trying to exert control in a way that seems maybe a little corrupt. You think about the children that have gone missing, the children that were in the camp. You remember that Sprout had a shunt in the back of her neck, and they took the other child who was out there with her to the cave where the octopus was, where you don't know what happened, but you know that bodies have been washing up in bodies of water all over the continent. And you think about the nest of octopus eggs that Talus noted that are below the camp. And you realize what these people are willing to sacrifice in order to retain and grow their own control. And I want to know how Ofelia feels about that.
I think this time this is a more personal feeling of I need to fix this. And I think Ofelia doesn't really have this like hero complex of like I'm going to save like all of these people, but I think just seeing the image of people being controlled, the knowledge of what the church is doing, like this almost like greedy beast that can never be satisfied, and the blasphemous nature of like what they're about to do. I think Ofelia thinks about the faces of Naya and Emmett, who in this chaos have been with her and her family. I think she kind of accepts like I need to do something about this and fix this. I need to make things right. And I think she's gonna get this growing sense of urgency as they approach the church, more of like, I need to take some action.
You are marched through a resplendent gate that quarters off where the military garrison that is contingent to the church is stationed. You see their barracks. You see how surrounded you are by soldiers. You're marched through a second gate that leads you into the courtyard that opens up into the Ecclesia de Ordo. You see how rich it is. The buildings here are beautiful, carved from marble. You would recognize how some of the stuff that adorns these buildings where these people live, you recognize how expensive it is. How much it must have cost to build these places for these people to live. And you see the church itself. It is towering. You recognize in it that it is a structure that was built to loom over and impress itself upon people and make them feel small. They take you through absolutely gorgeous carved oak doors with the all-seeing eye of Tyos on it. They lead you through that, down a corridor, and they open another set of wooden doors, and it opens up into the ecclesia itself as you are marched into it, and you see the towering pillars around you, and you see at the very back of this church, you see a statue and an altar. And just in front of you in the center of the room is a dais, a magic circle. And the statue, the altar, and the magic circle are actually all sitting on rock that does not match at all the rest of the church because it's natural, and the rest of the church is built. And I think it would occur to you that Igern said this used to be a mountain, and that they leveled the mountain and built the church around it for themselves. And as you are led into the room, why don't you give me a perception check and we'll see what you see.
13.
I don't think you notice some things, because what happens is you see a small, stout figure in a lilac frilly cloak, and she turns to face you, and you look at Igern, waiting for you here in the church. That was Annette Lee as Ofelia, Ashlyn Sparrow as Naya, and Tegan Mack as Emmett. Sara Brink was the game master. Story editing and sound design by Sara Brink. Oops All Witches is a playtest of the Witch class created for The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One, produced by Fortunate Horse. For more information, visit the Worlds Beyond Number Patreon. Oops All Witches is a Dancing Stickman production. If you're enjoying the podcast and you'd like to hear more nerdy content like this, please consider giving us a like and a subscribe. And be sure to tell your friends. Thanks for listening.